Welcome back to the afternoon session here on the Law and Crime Network. I'm your host, Anjanette Levy. And as we've been telling you today, there was some news out of Florida that broke last evening. The remains found near the Carlton Reserve on Wednesday of this week have been positively identified by dental records, the FBI says, as Brian Laundrie. He was named a person of interest by the FBI earlier this week. They said that they've been saying for weeks now that he was a person of interest in the death and disappearance of Gabby Petito. The special agent in charge of the Tampa office, though, earlier this week used the word murder for the first time. So he had been wanted on a debit card fraud charge, but Brian Laundrie now is dead. It's been confirmed, yet his cause of death remains unknown. And joining us to talk a little bit about this and the latest developments is Stephen Bertolino. He is the attorney for the Laundrie family and for Brian Laundrie. Mr. Bertolino, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you coming on. We've only spoken with you up to date via text message. So what is the very latest? Have you learned anything new about Brian Laundrie's cause of death today from the Sarasota County Medical Examiner?
Yes, good afternoon, Anjanette, and thank you for having me. I can tell you that I was expecting some news today from the medical examiner office, and the only thing that I was told is that the body was being sent over to an anthropologist, and they're going to do further testing from there. Perhaps early next week, we should know something.
And, it was on Wednesday of this week, we had spoken via text message. You said that your clients wanted to go to the Carlton Reserve and the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park. Talk to us a little bit about how that unfolded. I know we've reported via text what you told me.
So as I've said numerous times now, on Tuesday night, Chris and Roberta had indicated to me that they wanted to go into the preserve that was recently opened. They asked me if it was a good idea. I said yes, I thought it was a great idea. The concern was press, whether or not they would be followed. Chris and Roberta were okay with that. And I notified the Northport PD that Chris and Roberta would be going in. The reply text was, thank you for the heads up. On Wednesday morning, Chris and Roberta went to the reserve, and they were met there by a law enforcement officer from the Northport Police Department, as well as an officer from the FBI.
And explain a little bit about, well, first of all, I want to ask you, we know that Chris Laundrie, had been to that area back on October 7th. He went out there, he rode around on a gator with law enforcement for a while. Is this the same area that he was in with law enforcement that day? And was that area still underwater at that point?
So yes, it was one of the areas that Chris went in with law enforcement. At the time he was with law enforcement, I believe it was October 7th, the area was underwater. When they went in on the 20th, the area was not underwater. And a lot of people have been asking, how do they know where to go? And I keep repeating that this was the beginning of the trail, right near the access or the trailhead in the parking lot to the park. And they started down that trail. And as they were able to go off into the woods, they did so, checking in a zigzag fashion, looking for certain items, when Chris came across a white dry bag. And, about the same time, law enforcement came across a backpack and some remains.
And these were skeletal remains. You said there's going to be a forensic anthropologist examining these. So were they only able to find part of his skeleton that you're aware of?
I haven't been given those details. As I just repeated, you're probably one of the first to know. Because I just received the information a little while ago that the manner and cause of death will not be known today. And again, the remains are being sent to an anthropologist.
There have been a lot of questions raised about, the Laundries reaching out to you in the very beginning, you speaking with Brian Laundrie. What day were you approached by the Laundries to represent them in this matter?
As I've said numerous times, I've represented the Laundries for well over 20 years, or I should say Chris and Roberta Laundrie, in different matters. I have business dealings with Chris Laundrie through my office, and I speak to him frequently. I'm not at liberty to say the exact date that we spoke about, this particular instance at this point, or at any point in the future. That information would be privileged.
Just going back to that search of the reserve the other day, a lot was made about them waiting so long. I know that you've said publicly the reserve opened the day prior on Tuesday to the public, and that's why they wanted to go out there. There's been a lot discussed and people questioning, them finding these items so quickly after law enforcement scouring that area for weeks. What is your response to that?
My response has been the same. The area that they were searching was the beginning of the trailhead, or near the beginning of the trail in the park. And I don't know if that is where Brian went in and stopped, or if Brian was in the park for a long time and circled back. All I do know is that you start at the beginning, and that's where they started. So fortunately, we did find what they found. Unfortunately, we've been notified, as you know, that Brian is now deceased.
Has law enforcement given you any new information about the notebook that was found, or the backpack, or anything that was found in there that might yield some clues?
No, they have not.
And I wanted to ask you too, there have been people speculating that the Laundries were aware that their son was trying to go somewhere or trying to help them. When was the last time you're aware that they communicated with Brian Laundrie?
That would be Monday, September 13th, I'm sorry.
And did the Northport PD or the FBI ever indicate to you that they were considering any charges against the parents at all, or was it only against Brian?
There was never an indication that charges were pending or imminent. There were just conversations with respect to, what do the parents know, and certainly, would we be willing to talk to them with respect to that? And that was just some back and forth that was going on, but there were never any imminent charges pending, to my knowledge.
Against the parents? Did they ever think the parents were obstructing the investigation or assisted their son afterwards?
I can't tell you what they thought, but certainly, as you know, from what the public and the press and a lot of the insinuations that were out there, I'm sure the FBI had suspicions as well. But at the end of this matter, you can see what Chris and Roberta said all along with respect to Brian turned out to be true. He went to the reserve. That's the only place they believed he was. They went there looking for him before, the park was shut down, and, they couldn't find him in those first few days. And then the FBI took over starting on Friday evening, the 17th, into Saturday.
It's our understanding, just from all the reporting that's taken place, Gabby Petito was going to be their daughter-in-law at some point. She was engaged to their son. And, a lot of people can't understand why the Laundries wouldn't speak to the Petitos when they're desperately looking for their daughter. Can you elaborate on that? And do they have anything to say to the Petitos now?
Well, working backwards, I can tell you at this moment in time, we have, nothing to say to the Petito family. Right now, Chris and Roberta Laundrie are just focusing on, retrieving Brian's remains from the medical examiner's office, grieving their sons and dealing with that. And in the future, we'll see what happens with respect to, not speaking to the Petito family in the beginning. That was on me. That was something that I told them they shouldn't be doing. And we're just going to leave it at that.
Did they want to speak to the Petito family in the beginning?
And Jeanette, I can tell you it's not about what they wanted. It's about what I told them they needed to do.
Did you speak to them today?
I did. I spoke to them less than a half an hour ago.
And is there anything you can share with us from that conversation?
Not really. I mean, they have the same information you do with respect to the medical examiner not, releasing any findings today. They're upset still. They're just going through that grieving process.
And just to be clear, the trip to the reserve the other day, you're saying they just felt they needed to go out there and look. Is that all that was going on with that?
That's it, and that's all. I mean, it just, when the park opened up to the public, they wanted to go in. They, hadn't gone in just about 4 weeks or so, other than Chris going in with law enforcement, and they just wanted to go in and look around.
But I saw you mention on television there are things to wrap up with the FBI, the assistant U.S. attorney out there in Wyoming. What are those things that need to be wrapped up as far as you're concerned before any other comments can be made?
Well, as you know, I mean, Brian was charged with certain crimes related to a credit card and some fraud issues. You generally can't prosecute a dead person, but there are some open chapters that need to be closed. And those discussions will remain to be had in the coming days and weeks.
Well, Stephen Bertolino, attorney for the Laundrie family, Chris and Roberta Laundrie, we really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can speak with you again in the future once those chapters are closed that you refer to. So thanks again for your time.
Anjanette, thank you. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thanks. And that was Stephen Bertolino, the attorney for Chris and Roberta Laundrie. So we will be right back and we'll discuss what he had to say with our guests. So stay with us. This is the afternoon session on Law and Crime.
It was the video that shocked the nation. An unarmed black jogger, 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery, gunned down in broad daylight. The three-man charge will now stand trial. For live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the trial, subscribe to Law and Crime on YouTube TV today.